Hello and welcome in to another episode of Between the Hedges. Thank y'all for tuning in tonight and in the future. How's it going tonight on this wonderful Friday night?
Oh, it's going good. Another week is we're finishing up, heading into the weekend. So it's always good to be at Friday, have another good Friday, and uh, like I said, head into a weekend. The only downside to this weekend is we don't have a dogs game to watch because we're on a bye week this week. But other than that, uh, still a football weekend, so that's still good.
Yeah, I mean, sad that there's not a Georgia game to watch tomorrow, but still pretty excited about the slate of games that we have to watch and the ones that we're picking tonight. So hope everyone has some thoughts on what were the games that we pick and let us know in the chat. Give us something to respond to. And so what do we what do we have on our for thoughts on the bye week so far? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the news started out not so hot this week when we got news of the major injury to Tate Ratledge, our starting offensive lineman. He hurt his ankle and his knee in the last game against Kentucky, and I heard he ended up having tightrope surgery on his ankle. I have not heard, or I cannot recall a timeline on when he's going to be back, but I know that it's usually at least probably about 6 weeks, something like that, 4 to 6 weeks at least for that to heal up properly. So yeah, that wasn't good news. But other than that, it's just I'm sure they're just preparing for you know who come next weekend.
Yeah. Look, we don't have to be afraid to say their name. It's it's not Nick Saban that we're facing tomorrow. I know we're still facing the remnants of a Nick Saban built team and the end of his dynasty there, his run. Um, so we're still going to see a very, very good Alabama team, it looks like. Um, but I do feel like I have a little bit of confidence. I was at trivia last night, as you know, and I go to um, bar in Athens for this trivia. And I was talking to one of the guys there with us, and he has a source within the team. And he said, Monday and Tuesday's practice were kind of, a little bit more laid back, kind of letting them relax a little bit. But then Wednesday to Thursday's practice, they really ramped it up. They were really getting after it. And Kirby was probably the happiest man on earth those 2 days, which just means that we were looking good and we were really getting after it and putting some work in. So that really gives me some confidence that I think that that Kentucky game was our one oh crap game of the year. And our one dud. I think I'm confident we come out next weekend and take care of business. I'm not saying we're going to blow them out, but I think we'll end up winning a close, hard fought game in Tuscaloosa.
And that's all you got to do. Get the W. It doesn't matter if it's 1 point or 20 or 30 points. It doesn't matter. Just get the W. And I don't have, I share your optimism. Um, the fact that, you know, we are going to come out ready and dialed in because of the other team that's on the sideline. That's, you know, be honest, they've had our number the last few times. I mean, we've only beaten them one time out of the last what, five?
Hmm.
I think it's been. So yeah, that. we're we're gonna go over there. It'll be a business trip. We'll be ready. Kirby will have the team ready, I'm sure. Um, I just want to see the offense show up in the first half.
That was the other thing. So I think this is not an excuse at all for not, looking great, not looking like the guys were 100% ready to go and maybe bought in. But also, that same source within the team was saying uh, that Bobo wasn't quite showing everything, so that it wasn't on film for Alabama. Seems like a legit.
I don't know that I buy that, to be honest. Um, I mean, your job is to score points and win games. The game that you're currently playing is the most important. So, I mean, if it was against another, FCS level team or something, yeah, I could see. Like when we were playing Tennessee Tech, it didn't really matter what our offense did. We were going to be successful just because we totally uh, outmanned and outclassed and outsized them and everything. But yeah, the I don't know if you do that really against an SEC foe like Kentucky. I don't
Hey,
know if that's yeah. I mean, very well it could be. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying that it wasn't that way, but it just I don't know if that adds up to me.
yeah. I mean, I didn't quite buy that as much as I bought the rest of it, but I mean, it could be part of it. Also, the other part is we weren't firing on all cylinders on offense. We didn't have rhythm. We didn't sustain drives until we really needed to. So, um, that was the other part of it. And we faced a really good defensive front, like we talked about. So I think that's an 8-9 win Kentucky team at the end of the season. So there's no shame in what we did um, this past weekend. So, you have anything else to add to that, or you want to get to our picks tonight?
Let's just get on with the picks. That's what everybody came to see anyway.
All right. Let me get it pulled up here. Can you see that?
I can.
All right. So, as y'all can see on the screen, this is who we have picked for week 4. We're starting with the Auburn and Arkansas game. Um,
Yeah,
Auburn's the favorite,
Arkansas,
and they're at home. So,
Auburn's at home.
yeah. What were you gonna say about it?
No, no, go ahead. I was just going to say Arkansas goes to Auburn, who's favored by 3.5 points. They're Vegas is expecting a relatively close game between these two, even though it's at Auburn.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of see it that way, but I can also see how I don't know that ever since I picked Auburn against Cal and they laid a dud, I'm just wary. So as you can see, I went with Arkansas, who a lot of people probably coming into the season probably thought Arkansas would be worse than Auburn, maybe. Because people are like, watch out for Auburn, watch out. I'm like, I think it's a little early for that. Maybe next year you start saying watch out, depending on who they get at quarterback, because that's an obvious, like, glaring need for them. And to me, on the flip side, I think Arkansas's quarterback is legit. He looks pretty dang good himself. So give me the give me the Razorbacks and the 3.5.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I don't have any faith at all in picking Auburn after the way they treated us the last time.
And I
Um,
told you I wasn't going to
and
pick them again.
even with it being at home, it's they're on you got to show me basis before I have any faith whatsoever in Auburn. Um, I've seen Arkansas play. I've seen them take Oklahoma State to the woodshed. The only thing they forgot to do was actually finish it off and win that game.
Mm.
Um, and uh, that's a tough place to play as well. It was on the road, so Arkansas coming on the road to Auburn. I just see Arkansas. They're just going to give everybody a tough, hard fought game, and they've got some talented playmakers on offense this season. Their running back is really good. The quarterback is really good, and their defense, they're playing tough defense too. So, give me Arkansas. Give me the 3.5 points, and let's get out of Auburn with a win.
Yeah. And as y'all can see, Matthew's uh, going opposite of us on this one. Um, and again, he's not here tonight. We hate to not have him, but we understand that he does have a life outside of this, and as we do too. So
Hey, so what are you saying about us?
I guess we're the ones that
We
don't
don't
have a
have a
life
life,
tonight, at least.
are the ones that are dedicated enough to stick to the schedule, right?
May-
Yeah, I went there.
maybe, shots fired there. We
No
do
hard feelings. No
we
hard
do
feelings. We told each of us that we all agreed there would be times where we couldn't make it and where we could. We'd show up when we could, and if you can't make it, no worries, right? Whoever
right.
can will be here.
And so my point in even mentioning that is that, we don't get his take on this, but I'd be interested to see why
But
Auburn. But it's kind of like the Florida pick last week, right? Maybe it's just a Auburn because y'all went Arkansas. I don't know.
well, he didn't know. We don't know what each other's picking until we see this slide right here. So he
True.
didn't know what we all picked. Anyway, moving on to the next game, we got UCLA coming dang near all the way across the country, going to Death Valley to play LSU. LSU is favored by 24.5 points. And obviously, all three of us think that's not enough points because we're all on the LSU bandwagon. And, the only thing I can say about this game, I don't know much about UCLA when I looked them up, just to see what they've done so far. Their last game, they played Indiana, you know, and they got boat raced by Indiana. That's said enough for me. So go Tigers.
Yeah, go Tigers. Um, I,
Go Tigers.
I I looked that same game up, because I was looking at what they've done. I was looking at what LSU has done, and I know there may be a little controversy about LSU beating South Carolina supposedly with the refs and stuff, but I think the calls were bad both ways at the end, and South Carolina lost their starting quarterback, so it's kind of hard to overcome that. Um,
Yeah, those refs in that game had a bad game all the way around, if you ask me. But anyway,
but they were bad for both teams, and both teams had to deal with it, and LSU came out on top. So they did their job, they finished. And because of that, because I've seen LSU play a let's call South Carolina what they are, they're a good team right now. Um,
they're a really good team.
yeah. And UCLA getting beat by Indiana, who may win three or
Is
four
not a good
games.
team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
all I needed to see was that
now
LSU
the
could.
only hesitation with me taking LSU in this game, and I've thought about this long switching over and taking UCLA because of having, you know, more than three touchdowns, is the fact that LSU can't stop anybody. So if UCLA can throw together any kind of offense and they score 10 or 20 points, maybe it's going to be hard for LSU to cover in this game. But I'm going to have faith that I think they only scored three in that game against Indiana. So if you can only score three on Indiana, hopefully LSU's defense is a little bit better than Indiana's, I would think. So I stuck with, you know, taking LSU and giving up the points. I just hope LSU's offense is kicking on all cylinders too, so they can just, you know, light up the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was thinking too. And I'm sure Matthew was thinking along the same lines because we're willing to say that they've got to win by 25 for us to be right. So I think
Yep.
ultimately that
And
happens. I think it may be like a 42-3 type game for me. So
even if it's 42-10, that's good. Then, if I'm not mistaken, we welcome Oklahoma to the SEC. This is their first SEC scheduled game. They're welcoming the Tennessee Volunteers to town, and Tennessee's favored by 6.5, coming to Oklahoma. And Tennessee's been playing very, very well, putting up a lot of points all season long. There's a
yep.
little caveat to that, though,
Who
is
have they
who they
played?
did it. Yeah, who have they played? This will be the first team that will actually have a pulse that they played against. And I
Hmm.
mean, Oklahoma's pulse is kind of fair to middling, from what I've seen so far. They're kind of, just bleh. But at least it's not, FCF's level, you know. They'll give Tennessee somewhat of a fight, I think. And plus it doesn't hurt that it's the first SEC game at home. And, it's and they're welcoming their prodigal son back coaching on the other side. I don't know if he's like a prodigal son, but I know he played there. He won a national championship for Oklahoma while he played there. And from what I understand, the divorce there was not very happy. It wasn't a very good situation when he left town and went coaching elsewhere. Now he's coaching Tennessee, and we'll see how that goes. So I think Oklahoma's going to have a little extra motivation in this game. I just don't know that they got enough Jimmys and Joes to make it count. But when it comes down to it,
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma's starting to put together a good roster with Brent Venables. Um, he's he's starting to fill out that roster 2 and 3 deep. Um, but I think the speed and the physicality of Tennessee, even though they haven't really played anybody yet, I still think their speed and physicality will be superior enough to go on the road and win by, you know, probably two scores. I'd say 10-14 here.
well, in my opinion, the biggest thing that's going to be the difference in this game is Tennessee's defense.
Mhm.
Tennessee's defense, if they're playing well, which they have been so far, um, it's going to make it extremely difficult for Oklahoma to even score because of, I think Oklahoma has struggled to score all season long. Um, so going against one of the better defenses in the league ain't going to help solve that issue. So, I mean, Tennessee scores 2 touchdowns. They may win it.
Yeah, but Tennessee's offense a little more high powered than that, so I don't really
Oh, I
see
know.
it
And
being
so
a.
that makes it even bigger. It's kind of, but it is kind of weird to me that with Tennessee's offense, the way they've played all season long, that they're only favored by 6.5 in this game.
But it's a it tells you two things. Tennessee's probably the better team, and the less obvious thing is, at least to some people in the public, maybe Tennessee hadn't played anybody yet. So this
So
is this is game
we'll,
this is test number one.
right. And it's kind of along the lines of that game last week with Boston College and Missouri. Before that, Missouri, I think I said that about that game. Missouri hadn't played anybody. And I thought Boston College was good enough to keep it close. Now, granted, Missouri was favored by like 20 something points, right? In that game last week.
17.
So,
Yeah.
and they didn't cover. So maybe it's along the same lines with Oklahoma, that Tennessee hadn't really played anybody, but I think Tennessee's going to cover this one. I think they'll beat them by at least 2 scores.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And then we go back to the well again. We're picking the Missouri Vandy game. It's in Missouri. Missouri, it's home again, favored by 21 and a half. It's a lot of points for Missouri to cover. And as you can see, I'm taking those points. I'm taking Vandy. I'm taking the 3 touchdowns. And I am just hoping and praying that the good Vandy shows up, not the Vandy from last week. They got upset by Georgia State.
Yeah, I try not to be too reactionary, but it's hard not to be sometimes as a fan because I was like, all right, I figured one of these weeks coming up, maybe not this week, but it turns out it is, that we would eventually be picking a Vandy game because Vandy would play somebody eventually that mattered more. Now they started well. They beat a couple of teams that they probably shouldn't have, or they weren't favored to for sure. And then here we
They laid a
are.
big old goose egg.
They pulled a Vandy and they lost to Georgia State, which Georgia State is getting a lot better, but they're still not a
They shouldn't have
group
beat
of,
Vandy.
yeah, they're not
I'm
a
sorry, that's a
power.
game Vandy should win every time. That's a
Yeah.
game Vandy should win every time. And, coming off of that, yeah, my case is a little more on shaky ground, I'll admit it. Um, putting some faith in Vandy, but it seems like I remember Vandy and Missouri having closer games in the past. I don't know what it is about them, but anyway, I'm hoping that that trend continues. If that is indeed a trend, and I'm not just making it up in my own mind. But you and Matthew are on the Missouri bandwagon. Hey, I'm on the Missouri. I think Missouri's going to win flat out. It's the same thing as last week. I just think Vandy's going to be good enough to muddle it up enough to make it to where they don't cover a 20 plus point spread.
So,
That's the fact.
so you're telling me you think Vandy can keep it within 21? Because if Missouri wins by 21, me and Matthew are wrong.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
That leaves your margin of error like this.
No, I've got 21 and a half points worth the margin of error.
You can go ahead and start the scoreboard with Missouri up 14-0 in this game.
We'll see. If Vandy jumps out 14-0, I know you and Matthew are going to be puckering.
No, because it's a four-quarter game, and I know Vandy. So,
So, well, that's more Vandy talk than even they deserve to have on anybody's show. So, I guess moving right along, we got but with the slate of games not having a Georgia game, we have a filler here, if you ask me. But I mean, I think it is a top 25 matchup. I think both these teams are ranked, so it should. I think it may be one of the only ones that has top, both teams ranked this weekend. There might be one other, but anyway, Utah favored by a point and a half going to Oklahoma State. We've picked the Oklahoma State games before. I think this is the first time we've included a Utah game. Um, but what are your thoughts? I see you picked Utah, but what are your thoughts giving up the point and a half there and them going on the road?
We did pick the Oklahoma State Arkansas game. Um, and I thought that Oklahoma State would kind of run away with the game, and they didn't. And so, what I'm thinking here is that Utah likes to play more like an SEC Big Ten team. They like to ground and pound and be more physical with the run game. Oklahoma State,
I like Arkansas
yeah, Oklahoma State, you know, to their
is a
credit,
big classic Big 12 team.
well, on defense, yes, that on offense, they're supposed to have the offensive line and the running back to just run on anybody, but that hasn't been happening. I think
It especially
everybody,
didn't happen against Arkansas.
right. And so to that point, I think I can lay, a point and a half and think that Utah's going to win this game. And it may be a last second field goal, but then it'd be a win for me. So I'll take Utah, the more experienced team, quarterback, coach, and more physical team.
Well, with me, the way I look at this, with it only being a point and a half, it's basically a pick 'em game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not any score really, I guess 21-20, but where it can be less than a point and a half difference. But anyway, it's basically a pick 'em game. So it's just who do you think is going to win the game? And as long as they win it by 2 points or more, you're fine, depending on which side you go. But um, yeah, I just think being at home and getting the extra point and a half, it was worth it to take Oklahoma State for me. I think uh, I think Utah's a tough team. They have a knack of showing up in the big games and shining. So I could very well be wrong. I guess we'll find out Saturday. But I just decided to take the home team and point and a half and roll the dice with Oklahoma State. And hopefully they get some of their offensive issues uh, fixed for this game. And if you're going to do that, hopefully you do it at home and show out for your fans.
Yeah. I mean, you can only hope that that happens. I was going to start convincing myself that Oklahoma State may win the Big 12 and be in the playoff as a top four seed, but so far it's not looking like it to me. They may sneak in the back door at the end of the season by getting hot, starting with this game, but that's to be determined. Like you said, this was almost coin flip. I went back and forth on this one, um, so I landed
I'd be
on Utah.
interested to know whoever's watching what they think on this game. Who are they picking? Utah or Oklahoma State? On any of these games, put it in the chat. Tell us who you're picking. And then moving along, Matthew. Well, on that Utah game, Matthew's lining up with you again. You, taking Utah. So, and then the final game, we got USC, which this game has been on our radar for a couple of weeks now. We've
Hmm.
talked about it 2 weeks ago when Michigan and Texas were playing, and it came up. Well, it's here now, so we're going to get to actually see it. It's funny to me that if this game had happened 2 weeks ago, the three picks probably wouldn't be what the three picks are right now. So USC's going to Michigan, playing the big house. Michigan's at home, but USC's favored by 5.5 points. And as you can see, all three of us are taking the Trojans to defeat the Wolverines at home. So Michigan's going to go from having a 30 something game home winning streak to losing back to back home games, basically, is what we're saying. Losing
Yeah.
to Texas. I don't think they were at home last week when they played, if I'm not mistaken. But or were they off last week? I can't remember. But I think if they lose this game, I think that will be back-to-back home losses for them, and it'd be interesting to know when the last time that happened too, because Michigan's been, a pretty decent team for the last several years, and then
Michigan, just to not to interrupt, but Michigan did play last week. They played Arkansas State,
was it
and
at home?
it was a home game for Michigan. Do you
Okay,
have
so
any
they won that.
idea? You have any idea what the score of that game was?
I do not because I did not follow it.
I did not pay attention at all. I just remember seeing it come across the ticker at the bottom um, of my screen last weekend, and I was shocked. It was a 28-18 final score. So the
Dang.
mighty, the once mighty Wolverines are not looking good. And
And
they
and
got,
now they got USC coming to town. Who the one thing USC has always been able to do with Lincoln Riley is score points.
yep,
So that's not an issue for them. And I mean, um, Michigan's defense isn't the same defense that it was last year. Let's just get that all out of the way. It's just not. The whole team's not the same as it was last year. Some teams can put 10 to 15 players in the NFL each and every year, and the next team is still, pretty good. Obviously, Michigan's not one of those teams that can put that many guys in the NFL and then have guys behind them capable of doing, you know, and keeping the standard because they're not anywhere near as good a team this year as what they were previously. So, and the added bonus to this is this US team this year is actually playing some decent defense this year, as opposed to the way they had been in previous, I don't know, 3 or 4 years where they just wanted to outrace you and outscore you basically. So that's the reason why I went with USC. I'm sure you probably had some of the same reasons.
yeah, and I picked Michigan against Texas because I thought they could keep it close, as it's been noted a couple of times. But yeah, I'm selling all my Michigan stock.
They're
Yes,
they're in
clearly,
the category where they got to show you something now before you start buying them again.
and it could start this week. You come out and if they just absolutely manhandle USC, then we're talking about something else. We're saying, okay, maybe they turned it around, snapped out of it, whatever you want to call it. But I just don't think they have enough this year on this team to do that. Last year, it's like they were a one-hit wonder. They had been building and building and building for 3 years under Harbaugh, and then they exploded under him, and that he left, and everybody
Oh,
else left, and
exploded under him.
yeah,
Is that code for cheated?
yeah. However, whatever
Okay.
you want to call it. I know they had a lot of extracurricular help, but they also had a really dang good roster too. So
Well, when you know what the team's plays are coming,
yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
it's easy.
100%.
And when
So
you know what defense what the other team's playing, Yeah, you look a lot better than what you really are, I think. And we may be seeing some of that this year. Not only do they not have their better players still hanging around, but they're struggling. Couple of quick things that I noticed about this week's pick. There are three of these games that we're all in agreement on.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it is, so we're all either going to have at least three wins or three losses together, you know. And then uh, the other thing is you and Matthew, no, y'all are different on the Auburn pick. I was gonna say you and Matthew were the same on every pick, but that's wrong. Y'all are different on that one pick. So you and Matthew are gonna end up with the same, just about the same score, except for that one game.
Yeah,
It's
we're kind of
interesting.
living and dying together this week, so I'll be interested to see how that turns out for us. That made me a little nervous when I did see that he sent in his picks and that was right after I sent you mine separately, so he didn't know. But I was like, oh, we're almost exactly the same.
Yeah,
So it could
go
be,
go Van. All I got to say is go Vandy and go Oklahoma State. If I get those two, I'm winning this week.
yeah, but see, I wouldn't be putting all my eggs in Vandy's basket, so
I'm
that's
not.
that's why
I just
I
want
didn't
them to
pick them.
score enough to where Missouri can't beat them by 22 points. That's all I want.
This could be the Missouri game that they put up 60 though.
Okay, well then Vandy's got to put up 45.
That ain't happening. That ain't happening.
We
If
will
if
see.
Missouri goes 50 plus, 50 plus, if Missouri puts up 50 plus, Vandy's not covering. It will not happen.
See.
So
All
just
right.
putting that out there.
That about wraps it up, eh?
Yeah. Did you I had one other thought or question for you.
Uh-oh.
So I obviously changed how I felt about Michigan, and that's why I went with USC. But had this game happened week 1 of the season, I probably would have picked Michigan to cover.
Because you were drinking that Kool-Aid.
I wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid. I just
Yeah, you were.
last time I saw Michigan, they were still Michigan and they looked really good. So that being said, I flipped how I feel, and I am now thinking, wow, USC is just, they're actually playing some defense. They've got an offense that's dangerous. Um, they could, you know, be representing one side of the Big Ten and the Big Ten championship now. At least they're headed there, maybe. Did you did you feel that way, or have you always thought Michigan was just going to fall off the cliff this year? And
I wasn't buying into Michigan this year because I hadn't heard that they had a bunch of great depth, even when they were playing last year. So that depth is what was coming back this year. And honestly, that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother podcast, really. But I don't think they would have won the whole thing if um, certain teams would have been included in the playoff last year.
yeah, I mean, we
So I
we
don't
would
know
have
that they
beaten
would be
them.
defending national champion if that had happened. But um, no, I just haven't been a big fan of Michigan this year because of all the extracurriculars that they've been going through. ever since the beginning of last year. All that crap's got to affect you in some way. You know, it's there's a bunch of distractions for everybody on that team, and now they don't have their coach from last year, and they don't have whatever, if it's 10, if it's 12, I forget what the number of guys that got drafted in the NFL from their team last year. You don't have those leaders there anymore. So, yeah, I just, um, and I wasn't a big believer in USC until I watched the USC LSU game. And I said, wait, that's not the same. That's not they're not playing the same defense that they normally have played the last several years. And then they backed it up
And that
again.
that that's kind of what I was getting at. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't a believer in them either until that game, and now they've kind of shown that they can match the physicality of an SEC Big Ten school, and they're gonna at least people are calling it soft coverage and just bend don't break. Okay, well if that works for you until you get the horses to, you know, actually challenge people like Georgia does, um, then whatever works, right? I mean, they clearly had to do something else. So yeah, I was just interested because I did not expect all three of us to pick the same way on that game. If you
I
would have
did
told
this
me,
week after we've talked about it. Only
yeah,
when I was interested in knowing for sure if you came totally on board was you. I figured me and Matthew were going to be USC. I thought you may still hold out for Michigan a little bit, but I guess you've seen enough to realize that they aren't the same team that they were last year.
they're in the same boat with Auburn and Florida right now. You're gonna show me something.
How wild is it going to be if USC and Oregon play in the Big Ten championship game this year?
I would laugh so hard, first of all, because that would just absolutely crush the whole Big Ten bias that they're the superior conference
Well,
or
now they're Big Ten teams, so it's not going to crush the Big Ten bias. They're Big Ten teams, but it just would be funny. The very first year that you added these four Pac-12 teams and two of them play for your championship, that would be hilarious.
well, that's my
It'd be
point.
like in the SEC, Oklahoma playing Texas in the SEC championship this year. Now,
Right.
that ain't going to happen.
That would be an egg on the SEC
Right.
schools that
I
have been
agree.
there. And same thing in the Big Ten. It would be
Yeah.
an
And
egg
that's the
on
reason why I
Ohio.
said it would be funny. It would be
Yeah.
hilarious if that happens. But I think, if USC keeps playing the way they've been playing and Oregon, they have truly righted their ship on offense like they showed last week, you know, that's two tough teams. They're not going to go away easy. It would be hilarious though if they end up making it.
Be two tough outs. I kind of want to see, I think just kind of looking ahead, what really will determine how I project that and going forward for the Big Ten would be the Ohio State Oregon game. Ohio State's got to go out to Eugene. Um, it's probably going to be game day's location that week. Um, and that will tell us a lot about the direction of, you know, the contenders in the Big Ten. Um, that's week 7. That's that weekend that there's a lot of good games going on around the entire landscape of college football. So if Oregon knocks off Ohio State, yeah, we may be looking at a Oregon USC Big Ten championship, but we will see. Um, but I think that does wrap it up for tonight. So I do appreciate you getting on here with me. again, I always say it and I really mean it because I'm being genuine. I have fun. I enjoyed doing this with you and with Matthew. It's fun to get to talk about the team that we love and the sport that we love together. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you watch this now or later, we appreciate it. Definitely share with five of your friends, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, do all the things so that you know when we're going to be on. Um, it's every Friday and Sunday at 8, usually ish. We try to be on at 8. So thank y'all. And everyone have a good evening and enjoy all the games tomorrow. And as always, go
Go
dogs.
dogs.